Thank you, everyone, for watching Stories by You. Thank you so much for having me here on a weekly basis and for all my supporters. We do have our special guest. She's been with us before. She goes by Tamika, but I call her Meek. Now, I would not call her story just any story. Do you guys believe in miracles? Because reading her story, it really put me in tears. So make sure you have your box of tissues because I have my tissue here. But it's a great story. It's not just sad, but it's amazing because God works in mysterious ways in our life. And so here she is again. Thank you so much, Meek, for being here with us and knowing your story evolved in 2019 and everything that just went on with your story. So tell us exactly what led up to that whole events, all the stuff that went on to have this Christmas miracle that really pulled you out of the situation that you were in into something greater that you are doing today.
Awesome. That's a really great way to ask that. So, because my Christmas story started months before Christmas. So it was the beginning, in fact, of 2019 when I ended an unhealthy relationship with my employer. While there was nothing abusive or hostile in my work environment, it was the definition of a dead end job. I couldn't afford to leave the job, but I really couldn't afford to keep the job without having to work side gigs. And that was costing me time with my family. While the cost of everything was just going up, my salary and position in this company were stagnant for 7 years. As the breadwinner in a family of six, I saw no way to improve my situation. So in February 2019, after some real internal struggle with fear and doubt, I trusted God because God is a major part of my life. And I finally quit the job to focus on building my own business. So I wish I could say that I was immediately successful, but 2019 was not a good year. My husband, who doesn't work outside of the home, was angry at me, first of all, for quitting. I didn't really have his permission to quit. And since he is unable to find work, he felt like I was spoiled and reactionary. So he argued with me every single day, 9 a.m. sharp. The only thing that was even worse than that was that our savings was quickly dwindling and my business kind of slowed to a halt. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, even through the strain and tension, God was with me. Resources miraculously appeared from out of nowhere in odd and unexpected ways. We saw so many miracles that year, and we didn't actually do without anything. It was just nerve-wracking. Finally, in November of that year, I closed my first real big client, a multi-year contract with Marriott Technical Operations Center. The only issue was the payment terms were 45 days and I was already broke. So I had to wait. I had to work for 30 days and then write an invoice to the company and then wait another 45 days to get paid. So that's like 75 days from the day I started before I would get paid. And I was already struggling. Working on site also meant that I wouldn't have time to devote to some of the side hustles that were keeping our family afloat. And I remember talking about that with the pastor's wife at my local church. She's also my friend and mentor, Barb. And she asked me, like, how are you guys going to survive? And I just remember telling her manna from heaven and like shrugging my shoulders, like, God has to provide because I don't have any idea. So work started. And on my first day of work, I literally only had enough gas to get like to work, but I didn't have enough gas for the 30 miles back home. So fortunately, I had a speaking engagement directly after work that night to encourage people going through divorce. through a ministry at our church called Divorce Care. So the location of the church is like halfway between where I live and where I work. So I had exactly enough gas to get to the church, but not enough to get home. So I remember speaking to the group, and immediately after, one of the leaders presented me with a thank you card that I totally wasn't expecting. And inside, everybody had signed a card, and there was a $100 bill. And I was so amazed and blown away because I needed that $100 right at that instant. I immediately went to the gas station. But I remember like trying to excuse myself quickly out of the meeting because I was like welling up with tears and just getting into my car and just sobbing and like thanking God because I needed gas money just to get home. And it also provided me gas money for the rest of the week. So our resources, it's November at this time, and our resources were already stretched super thin. And so we had to prepare our kids and tell them that we were going to have a lean Thanksgiving and maybe not even do Christmas until January. But it turned out that God had other plans. So a friend from church, a different friend, a single woman in her 60s who has become like a family member to us, invited herself to our Thanksgiving feast at our house. And it was odd and uncomfortable because we were too embarrassed to tell her that we really weren't going to do Thanksgiving because we didn't have the money to host it. And we didn't even have to have that conversation because as a part of her inviting herself to our event, she offered to pay for it. And so she paid for the entire meal, all the turkey and the fixings. And my husband, who is a great cook, prepared it all. And we were actually exceedingly thankful that year, probably more thankful than any other year. So by the time Christmas had rolled around, I actually was annoyed and sick of all the discussion of gifts and shopping that all my friends were having because we didn't have anything under our tree. And we knew we wouldn't. We had actually put up the tree, but just like we haphazardly did it, but really didn't have any plans for Christmas. And Christmas really isn't about presents, right? But as a mom, it really hurts when my decisions cost my kids. And this was a time when I knew that it would cost my kids. Even though they were all really good and gracious to me, my heart hurt because I couldn't give them Christmas. So on December 24th, while I was actually at work on Christmas Eve, the pastor's wife showed up totally unexpected and presented my husband with donated gift cards from people at our church, totaling $700. Now, mind you, we didn't tell anyone about our Christmas troubles. We really never really asked for help. People were helping us just unexpectedly. So my husband, in like 6 hours or less, went around to all the shops in one day and did Christmas for the kids. And there were even some surprises under the tree for me. And it was our Christmas miracle. It was a great Christmas, despite it being tough. Now, the happy ending of this story is once January rolled around, my financial troubles were pretty much over. And in 2020, my business grew exceedingly well. I did very well over 6 figures, double that actually. But then I lost the Marriott contract because of COVID. But even after losing the contract, I immediately picked up 2 even better contracts, and 2020 ended up just really making up for the pain of 2019. But 2019 was a special year, and it showed me that we can really trust God, that He has ideas and resources that we don't. And that is especially true when we are surrounded by God's faithful servants.
Everything that you've just gone through in that whole year, God kept opening, doors for you. And even you weren't asking, is what you were saying earlier, no one really knew the situation you were in. So that's why I find your story, it's a miracle. It's a great, great story. And I love how Chris found the 5-6 hours he had to just go and
Yeah.
get all the presents and get even the special one for you. That's what true meaning of the holidays are all about. It's about the giving. And even, when you mentioned about the gas, I've been thinking about it while I was reading your story. You didn't have gas to get home from the church, and unexpectedly the lady had given you $100 gift cards, cash, you said, right? It was
Yeah.
cash. And it's amazing. You didn't ask for anything, but God provided perfect timing. So wanted to ask you, Meek, how did your faith sustain you that very challenging year that you and Chris and your family went through?
That is a good question. I remember really crying the day I decided that I was going to quit my job, just really crying for 8 hours. Like I woke up that morning, like, this is the day I'm going to quit. I started writing the letter and then I started sobbing and I just basically cried all day for 8 hours because I really believed I needed the job and the benefits, and that there was no guarantees that my business would be successful. I felt like everybody in my family was dependent on me and I was just throwing it away. So like I struggled internally. So I can't even blame my husband for like being upset with me because I was like fighting within myself. And finally, at the end of the day, I like played out what was really the conflict in my head. And the conflict was a voice telling me that if I do this, I will fail. And that none of the promises that God will have my back or whatever actually apply to me because it's an ancient book, the Bible, and it can't possibly apply to your life. And then another voice, like, the two voices was saying to me, would God say that to you? Like, would God tell you you can't trust the Bible? So it was just like, I'm going to believe the voice that confirms the truth in the Bible rather than the voice that questions it. And so I just made the decision. Like I struggled all day. And then finally that gave me the peace to just make the decision and send the resignation. And I think today, like if I would have not made that choice, then I would still be in that job with inflation and everything that's happened during the pandemic, struggling even more than I struggled. Like last year, I was able to get completely out of debt. And my daughter needed money for college, and I was able to just write a check. And we were able to give so much more back to the community at our local church than we've ever been able to, ever, because I had that 2019 year.
Right.
So my faith really helped me with the internal struggle that I think entrepreneurs experience.
Yes. And I think taking a risk, but understanding God will always provide for you as far as, us being Christians or the people that are believers. We make decisions, the right decisions, but we say, I need to get out of the situation, but I believe God will provide. So he will open up many doors. And you did that. You took step of faith. So thank you for that. The next question was some of the gifts that you received that you were mentioning in your story from the church people, unanticipated. It wasn't even something that you asked for, but it was given to you, grace of God. So with that, what other ways has been a great help to you from the church community that you're in with Journeys Crossing?
Oh, wow. So in reality, and I said this in my last video, being in connection with people who treated me with grace and understanding and allowed me to become a new person, which is part of the promise of Christianity, that has just been helpful to me personally. But even in this instance, in my 2019 year, like these are just a few stories. But there are way more people who just randomly would just bless us. I mean, giving us just checks, giving us money, to the point where my husband and I started a folder. The folder says #goals on the front, but it has nothing to do with goals. It's a folder of like the check stubs or the printout from all these basically donations that came through, really like manna from heaven. And it wasn't just people at our local church. It was just believers that we know, even in our families, that were just like my grandma. Oh, I was just thinking about you and I sent you $200. And it wasn't my birthday or anything, and so I learned that God's people are his hands and feet on earth. Like, God will initiate the thought of how he's going to bless us, but it's us who do it for each other. So it showed me how it works, right? You pray for God to help you, and his hand isn't going to come down from heaven. It's going to be a person.
Yes. And he works through people to help us, to encourage us, and so many things that we can just sit here and talk about all day. But lastly, I just want to ask you, for anyone watching, Meek, what would be something like for entrepreneurs out there watching this, and they're like, well, not so sure about my job, things are not going well, there's a lot of risk, we're in pandemic. What would be some of the things that you went through and advice that you can give to some of those people out there watching?
I would say absolutely bring God into your business and bring God into your journey as a business owner, because I don't always feel super confident in my decisions. In fact, I don't, but I feel very confident in God because he hasn't failed me yet, and I don't think he will. So I don't even want to have the yet, but you have to take risks to be successful. And God is inviting you to take risks, which that's what trust is about. That's what faith is about, right? It's like doing the thing, even if you don't have evidence, physical evidence. And so I believe that entrepreneurship is extremely spiritual if you allow it to be. And that's just by inviting God into your business. And he'll send you people, and he'll send you opportunities, and just stretch you and grow you in ways that you just never imagined. If you have a decision to make, and it's between like trusting yourself and what you see and know versus trusting the unknown, I would almost advise you to go to the unknown, because that's where God is.
Yeah, I love that. It's also, the other thing I would say, from my experience, is it's okay for people to ask. We have resources all around us. So if there is any time that you're looking for a job, something's not working out, through your own network, people that are around you, you can simply ask, what it is you're looking for, what type of a work, you're out there searching for. And you just never know, because you talk to one person may know another person. Above all, at least for me, prayer is the number one thing before I step into doing anything outside of my own. Have an understanding to just sit and pray about the areas of our lives just not working well, and ask God to send the angels, especially during the holiday season. It's so important that we don't take this for granted. It's not about our fancy clothes or our trees and the gifts underneath the tree, but so much about the moments we cherish with loved ones. And Tamika, thank you again so much. This was a great story. I'm so glad you came back on the show and
no problem.
The story. Thank you for all of our audience for watching again. Please don't forget to subscribe. As always, thank you so much for all your love and support and your encouragement. And don't forget, if you know someone that may have a great story, encouraging, healing, recovery, I would love to talk to you. So please send them my way. As always, have a great day. Have a great holidays. Have a great Christmas. And talk to you soon.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.